All right. Well, I got a quick thing here about a technology that we've been covering for a long time.
You can't take the
CRISPR.
You can't take the
Cas9.
This is freethink.com, and the headline here, CRISPR cure for sickle cell, nearly 100% effective after 3 years. And we actually reported, I think we've been reporting every year as they started this.
We have our yearly sickle cell CRISPR update.
Right. And, well, let me just read it because it's a good sort of summary of what's been happening and where we're at today. Okay. It says here, when CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex used gene editing to try to cure heritable blood disorders in 2019, it marked the first CRISPR trial outside of China. A year later, the trial using the CRISPR gene editor to treat sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia showed promising results, Freethink reported in 2020. Now, 3 years after the trial began, the researchers have presented new data showing that the treatment continues to be effective. Quote, these data provide further evidence that this treatment has the potential to be transformational for patients with sickle cell disease and beta I always say that wrong, thalassemia. Trial abstract author Stephen A. Grupp of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia said in a statement. And then it goes into, what the disease is and how CRISPR helps, with the therapy and all that kind of stuff. So pretty brief update, but, the ethical concerns about CRISPR technology, which is basically a technology that goes in, there's a thing called recombinant DNA. It takes the DNA of something else or somewhere else, snips out parts of your DNA and then replaces it. And of course, the technology, in theory, has the ability to recode your DNA with maybe plants or animals or, just add a few features or whatever. It's gene editing at its finest, at least in the sort of promised way that this technology would be applied.
In the religiosity that is the medical industrial complex.
Right. But to get there, it's got to prove itself, right? In more practical terms, not so much enhancement, but just restoration. And so the first wave of CRISPR entering the medical field will likely be all about helping people, curing the sick and curing cancer, curing all this stuff. We'll probably see tons of that with CRISPR. So keeping that in mind. And of course, the other end of CRISPR, this is The Verge, how CRISPR rice could help us tackle climate change. Aren't you excited? All we need is some CRISPR rice. We'll take care of that.
CRISPR rice.
We'll take care of that climate change. Don't worry, Greta.
Real quick, back to the sickle cell thing.
Yeah,
there's a lot wrapped up in this story. Because number one, nearly 100% effective.
Yeah, that's
it means
it's not 100.
Well, sure. But even putting that number in the headline, even making claims that something is nearly 100% effective.
Yeah.
Nothing in the scientific community is 100% anything.
Yeah.
And so now sickle cell being a disease that primarily affects people of color, Africans, those of African descent. So you've got a nice sort of social justice angle to it, where there's billions of dollars and basically when something is 100% effective or
we lost Basil for a second.
Got the religion of the medical industrial complex, and we've seen this play out super recently. Not even talking about the 2 years that the entire world was split over the religious ideals of the medical big pharma industry, but you can see it playing out in things like the monkeypox vaccine being targeted at the gay community. You've got there's another vaccine we'll cover later being targeted at the gay, bisexual men community.
A lot of these things coming out of Africa in general.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they are rushing. The community is rushing to get these vaccines. We covered the story about the New York City vaccine clinic. Well, it's a sexual health clinic, even though monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted disease, apparently. And they just ran out.
How do you get it, though?
They got overwhelmed was the word they used.
Right.
So I think there's an interesting parallel between sickle cell, the miracle of the sickle cell CRISPR cure, and the targeting of another minority group, the gay and bisexual men, with multiple vaccines now. It's just got a very interesting vibe of targeting.
Yes,
They're targeting.
Well, what are they going to do? What is, with all the reparations coming, they're going to have all this. The black community or certain descendants of African or African descent, they're going to have all this money from the reparations. What are they going to do? They're going to spend it on CRISPR, baby. They're going to
That's not going to happen. Yeah, no, it's free, man. It's free.
Oh, you think it's going to be free?
I'm sure it'll be free.
Oh, okay.
But and I mean, just to mention it in case somebody hasn't caught all of our other reporting on CRISPR, just report after report after report of, wow, we did this miracle cure on mice or ferrets or whatever, and it's going to change the world. And then a week later, whoopsies, we should have stopped. We should.
You keep cutting out on the live.
The mice's cancer, but it also gave them, a brain hemorrhage or something.
Well,
the unforeseen trickle-down consequences have been truly outrageous on a lot of the most recent CRISPR cures. And that's why I think it's so disturbing that it's targeted on an African, a disease that is genetically more common in African descended people. Because, if one of these trickle-down effects takes place, I mean, that's basically a medical genocide of an entire, minority community. And I see the same thing with the vaccines with monkeypox and meningococcal disease, which we'll talk about later, on the gay and bisexual men category. This targeting of medical products is really, really disturbing me.
Wasn't the hamster story from a couple weeks ago, wasn't that CRISPR too? Or was that different?
Yeah.
Was that something they didn't bring?
I believe it was. Yeah, the CRISPR cure for something with hamsters.
Genes.
They changed their hormones, thinking that it would make them all get along, and
it did the exact opposite. It made them more
and it
aggro.
turned them into rageful, bloodthirsty monsters.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the CRISPR, and CRISPR, especially the technology that the messing with the Legos, the building blocks of life, has all kinds of both cosmological and eschatological implications for mankind.
Yeah.
So it concerns all of you people. Somebody in the chat too. I like the Rice CRISPR treats. That's a good one. Somebody should really come up with that brand.